Welcome to the Los Angeles Sentinel Daily Brief. This is where we talk Black and talk back to the headlines that are impacting the Black experience. I'm Niele Anderson, and here's what you need to know for today. Oklahoma has become a tipping point for Black liberation and faces some of America's most racist acts and events from the past to present. Joining me now to discuss justice for Black Creek, justice for Greenwood, the reparations case for the Tulsa massacre living survivors, and justice for Julius Jones, the Black man whose execution was commuted because of protest and rally cries from the Black community. Welcome now, Attorney Damario Solomon Simmons. Welcome back to the Daily Brief.
Oh man, it's good to be back. It's good to see you, and I just appreciate all the great work you guys have been doing.
No, I appreciate the work that you're doing. I got a chance to catch you last week where you were a part of history in Atlanta. Can you talk a little bit about being there to see Raphael Warnock be the first Black man elected to a 6-year term in the Senate?
Yeah, it was a great time. I had the opportunity to co-host my good friend Roland Martin's Unfiltered daily show with Roland, and we were set up. It was amazing. We were right in the ballroom where the victory party was happening, and it was literally hundreds of media outlets, and we had the biggest setup. And we were just there live, and we were interviewing celebrities as they're coming in, interviewing people about how they felt about the election. And, you know, the highlight of the night was obviously Senator Warnock winning. But the second highlight, right below Warnock winning, was I got to hang out with Spike Lee and meet him for the first time, and that was awesome. It was great.
Oklahoma has become a tipping point when we look at issues pertaining to racial justice. And I want to talk to you about something that a lot of our community might not know about, and that's justice for Black Creek. What is that all about?
People don't realize that the co-founders of Greenwood were Black Creek Indians, which I'm a Black Creek Indian myself. And people don't know, a lot of people don't know the history of Black Native Americans in Oklahoma. If you've heard of the Trail of Tears, that is when the racist president, Andrew Jackson, took the land of the five so-called, they call them the civilized tribes then, the 5 tribes, which is the Seminole, the Cherokee, the Choctaw, the Chickasaw, and the Creek. And they forced us to march from our traditional homelands in the Southeast United States of America, Alabama, Georgia, Florida, South Carolina, Mississippi, etc., and marched us to what is now Oklahoma in the 1830s, but at the time it was called Indian Territory. And on that march included Black people, African people, some who were enslaved by the Native American tribes, and some who were tribal members who have been tribal members since before Columbus got here. And then from the 1830s to the 1860s, lived out here in Indian Territory, which was outside of the United States of America. So during that time period, there were still Indians who enslaved Black or Africans or Black Indians, but there's also Black people who escaped out of the South and came into Indian Territory that were to be free. And so when the Civil War happened in the Civil War, 1861 to 1865, these Native American nations split, and some went and fought with the Confederacy, and some went and fought with the Union. Well, at the conclusion of the war, there needed to be a new treaty between the Creek Nation and United States of America. That's the Creek Treaty of 1866. That treaty was negotiated by 5 individuals and signed by 5 individuals. One of those individuals was my direct ancestor, my 4-time great-grandfather, Cal Minko, also known as Cal Tom. And in that treaty, Article 2 outlawed enslavement, and it also gave citizenship to all Creeks of African descent, enslaved or not, to have the same citizenship and benefits as all other Creeks. And that was the law of the land in the Creek Nation up until 1979. In 1979, the Creek Nation did an illegal vote where they voted to kick out the Black members of the nation. And ever since that day, for 43 years, Black Creeks have been fighting to get our rightful citizenship and the benefits that we should receive based on our citizenship. Benefits like healthcare, educational scholarships, housing, cash stipends, and so much more.
What are the next steps? How can Black America support or learn more about Justice for Black Creek?
First of all, they can go to justiceforgreenwood.org or Justice for Black Creeks. We have two websites, and they can sign up for our newsletter. They can make a donation to this legal work, and they can spread this message and this narrative, because this is something that impacts over 150,000 Black Creeks throughout this nation. You're talking about tens of thousands of Black families whose lives will be substantially improved when we win our citizenship back. For instance, during the COVID, the heat of the COVID pandemic, because I think we're still kind of in it, right? The Creek Nation received billions of dollars from the federal government, like other Native American nations. And with that billions of dollars, they also received medication, the shots, before many other locales received that. So the Creek Nation was able to give its citizens the shots earlier, months earlier than other people were receiving it. That meant that there were Black Creeks who should have been able to receive their shots, their COVID vaccinations, and they were denied that, and they were dying. Also, the Creek Nation gave each of its citizens $4,500 as a COVID payment. Now, in America, we only got a couple $1,000s, right? They gave each citizen $4,500. That means that 150,000 plus Black Creek Indians who should have received that $4,500, they did not receive it. And that is money that we are entitled to. That $4,500 could have been the difference between paying rent, paying for medicine, paying for a new car, paying for school tuition, whatever. We were denied that, and it's all based upon our race. It's all based upon anti-Black discrimination. So as you stated, this is basically a reparations type case. It's something that we're owed. It's something that the law says we should receive, and that's what we're fighting for.
Right. And you got me thinking again, because my grandmother and her sisters are from Spencer, Oklahoma, and they're in their 90s, and our bloodline is Chickasaw. And so now I'm like, oh, they may be entitled to $4,500 that they leaving sitting on the table.
See, I knew I liked you, but I didn't know your people was from Oklahoma. But that's the thing about Oklahoma that we're still uncovering to the world. It actually has the most unique and rich Black history in the history of this country, because of what I've said, the uniqueness of it, because of Indian territory and so many Black people that were part of those 5 nations. Because between 1866 and 1907, thousands and thousands of what my family on the Native side would call state Negroes, those who came out of the United States and came to Oklahoma seeking freedom, justice, and equality. The fact that Oklahoma almost came into the Union as a Black state due to a Black man by the name of Eber P. McCabe, who's the founder of Langston University, which is the furthest west historically Black college university based here in Oklahoma. The fact that Oklahoma, before statehood, it was illegal. I'm going to say this. It was illegal for white people to own land or be here. This was a state that was based upon Black and brown people, Native people. That is the history of Oklahoma. So when the statehood happened in 1907, and they put in the first law in Oklahoma was segregated railroad cars and segregated telephone booths, and the Constitution made Jim Crow the law of the land, then you saw an exodus of Black people leaving. And then, of course, with the massacre that destroyed Greenwood, that saw a large population of Black people leave Oklahoma. And then over the years, over the 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, Black communities in Oklahoma, which was a very Black state, dispersed all over the place, like to California. So yes, there are Black Chickasaws, there are Black Choctaws, there are Black Seminoles, there are Black Cherokees, and like me and my family are Black Creeks.
You also brought up the Tulsa massacre, and you are representing the 4 survivors with another reparations trial. Can you give us an update on where that case stands right now?
We are in discovery right now as we speak. Also, the city of Tulsa, the Tulsa Chamber of Commerce, the Tulsa County, and the other perpetrators of the massacre that we have sued, they're still trying to get our case kicked out of court. They filed another motion to dismiss back in October. We had to respond to that. We did so on November 18th. And now we're just waiting for our judge to make a determination on what's going to be the full scope of our case. back in August of 2022, she narrowed our case more than what we thought it should have been. We didn't think it was fair, but that was her decision, and that's how it works sometimes. I'm not happy about that, but I'm a big boy, and so I'm gonna keep moving forward and try to win on the 50% scope that she gave us. And so our clients are still going strong. Mother Leslie Benefield Randall turned 108 on November 10th, and we celebrated her, and we had a celebratory lunch for her. And I tell you, Mother Fletcher was there, who's already 108, and Mother Randall was there. And I'm standing in between these two beautiful Black women, both 108 years old, dressed to the nines, hair done, nails done, looking and smelling good. I told my wife, I said, this is the presence of God. This is the very presence of God, that these women who've gone through the massacre, who were sharecroppers, who were domestics, Jim Crow, everything that they had to deal with, and yet they're here, they're healthy, and they're still motivated to fight for justice and reparations, not just for them, not just for their families, and not even just for Greenwood, but for our entire community, because they understand, as I understand, we have to win Tulsa, the reparations for the Tulsa massacre, so we can win reparations overall for our community. Because if we're not able to win when we have living survivors, we have documentation, we have video, we have pictures, we have insurance claims, we have old lawsuits that were filed, but we cannot win with all that evidence. And with the whole world watching, it's going to make it much more difficult for us to win reparations for enslavement and the other dramatic and terrible deeds that we've had to endure as Black people.
And I'm just so glad that they were able to see, although it took 100 years, that it mattered, and that it was injustice done to our people, and that they have the hope that they may even get the redemption that they haven't received in over 108 years or so, well, 100 years plus, by what happened to them. So really thank you for the work that you're doing. And I brought up Julius Jones because it's so much that Oklahoma is representing right now. When we look at the state of this nation and we think of systemic racism, I know that you're not his attorney, but for all of you who don't know, Julius Jones, his sentence was commuted thanks to his family and advocates from Oklahoma and across the country. He was supposed to be executed, and they stayed his execution, but now he's in prison for life. And that brings me to the final question to you. When we look at systemic racism in this country, and we look at the three cases that we're talking about right now, Julius Jones, we're looking at criminal justice. When we look at justice for Black Creek, as well as the Tulsa Massacre, we're looking at reparations. Where do you see all of this going as we look at the liberation for Black people in this country?
Yeah, well, first of all, I appreciate you bringing up Julius Jones. I know him. I knew him. I played football at the University of Oklahoma with his brother, and we spent a lot of time together. So I got to meet Julius when he was a high school student. He was a straight A student. He was a basketball star. He was a leader. And what happened to him was a shock and a tragedy. And for him to be on death row as long as he was also a tragedy for his family, his brother, his parents. And it was such a blessing to see the community, both local and national, galvanize and organize around saving his life. And I had a very, minuscule portion of that. I would definitely defer to my sister and my partner, Dr. Tiffany Crutcher of the Crutcher Foundation, who was really helped spearhead a lot of that work, was on ground, was at McAllister the day he was supposed to be executed, was there organizing people in harm's way. It was police, it was highway state troopers, and it was harm's way. And all of that momentum caused Julius Jones' life to be spared. The fight to free Julius Jones continues to move forward. And I know there are activists, like I said, and who are just front and center on that, working on that each and every day. So we have all that going on in Oklahoma. And if we can win here in Oklahoma, we can win anywhere in the world.
I think so. And I think all eyes are on Oklahoma because of these important issues that really are at the center of Black America and the fight for liberation. So we really appreciate you being on the front line. As you know, it's always an open invitation for you here. And thanks for updating us about what's happening in Oklahoma right now.
Absolutely. So I just tell people go to justiceforgreenwood.org, connect with us, make a donation. If you can donate $5, do five. If you can donate 500, do 500. If you can donate 5,000, do 5,000. My point is, do what you can. Each and every one of us have to do what we can. Dr. Carter G. Woodson, in his great book, The Miseducation of the Negro, he said our community does not need any more leaders. We need servants, those who will serve the wants and needs of our people. And that's what I'm asking each and every one of you that's listening today. Do what you can to help us and help those in your neighborhood, your community. Do what you can to be a servant to Black people.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
To keep up with Justice for Greenwood, Justice for Tulsa, all of this information can be found right at the lasentinel.net. And we're available wherever podcasts can be heard. I'm Niele Anderson, and you have just been debriefed.